Have you ever wondered why certain messages, certain moments, or certain people appear in your life exactly when you need them most? It's not coincidence. The universe speaks in whispers, and it only speaks clearly when your soul is ready to listen. Carl Jung once taught that the mind and the unconscious are constantly sending us signals through dreams, through synchronicities, through inner nudges guiding us toward the person we are meant to become. Today, I want to share with you a message that arrives only when your future is ready to shift. A message that awakens your awareness, aligns your inner world with possibility, and calls you to step into the life you've been destined for. This is not about force, and it's not about waiting passively. It's about recognizing the signs, trusting your inner voice, embracing fear, and taking deliberate, aligned action. The universe has been preparing you for this moment, and what you are about to hear could change everything. Have you ever noticed how life has a way of whispering to you when you are ready to hear it? Not loudly, not with fanfare or announcements, but subtly, in ways that can only be perceived when you pause and listen deeply. The universe communicates in a language that is quiet yet persistent, and it does not make mistakes. When certain people, opportunities, or circumstances appear in your life, they are not coincidences. They are signs. They are the gentle nudges telling you that your soul has grown enough, that your consciousness has expanded enough to step into a new chapter. Often, these signs are easy to dismiss because they do not fit into the narrative our minds are constantly trying to create, but they are there nonetheless, waiting for your recognition. These signs may appear as synchronicities, moments that feel too precise to be random, or encounters that seem ordinary but leave a deep impression on your psyche. It could be a conversation with a stranger that opens your mind to an entirely new perspective, a book that falls into your hands at exactly the right moment, or even a dream that leaves you unsettled, yet strangely aware of its message. When your future is ready to change, these signals begin to accumulate, not to overwhelm you, but to align you with what is to come. You might not see the pattern at first, and that is part of the process. Your mind, conditioned to linear thinking and certainty, struggles to comprehend the interconnectedness of life. Yet, even in the absence of understanding, your intuition, the quiet voice inside you that knows more than your conscious self, will begin to stir. It is in these moments that you must cultivate awareness, for the universe does not knock twice. Many people pass through life unaware of these signs, too caught up in the noise, too entangled in their routines, and too afraid of stepping beyond the familiar. They see change approaching but fail to recognize it. The message of readiness is not always dramatic. It is often a quiet insistence, an internal feeling that something is different, that you are being called to step forward. You may feel a tug at your heart, a sense of unease, or an unshakable curiosity about a path you have never walked before. This is not mere coincidence. This is the universe presenting you with an invitation, one that is tailored precisely to the stage of your growth. The beauty of this process lies in the interplay between external events and internal transformation. The universe sends signs, yes, but it also waits for your readiness to receive them. It is not enough for life to offer opportunities if you are not yet prepared to recognize and act upon them. Transformation is a partnership, a dance between the external and internal, and it requires your willingness to observe, reflect, and trust. When the signs begin to appear, they often reflect the parts of yourself you have been neglecting, the potentials within you that have long been dormant. They act as mirrors, showing you what you are capable of, even if you have yet to fully believe it. There is also a subtle, almost mystical timing at work. Often, you will notice that the signs appear when your mind has begun to tire of old patterns, when your heart has grown restless with mediocrity, and when your spirit has longed for expansion. Life has its own rhythm, and when you are aligned with it, the universe meets you halfway. Opportunities that seemed out of reach suddenly present themselves. Doors that had been closed begin to open, and people who resonate with your journey come into your life. This alignment is not accidental. It is a reflection of your inner readiness, a confirmation that the time for transformation is now. Yet, recognizing these signs requires trust, a trust that life is intelligent, that there is a purpose to the unfolding of events, even when they are beyond your comprehension. Many resist this trust because it demands surrender, an acceptance that not everything is within the grasp of reason or control. But the universe does not reward control, it rewards openness, attention, And courage. It rewards those who are willing to step into the unknown with a heart attuned to the subtle guidance of life itself. When you begin to notice these whispers, you are not being given a random chance. You are being invited to participate in the evolution of your own destiny. It is also essential to cultivate patience, for the signs do not always lead to immediate action. Sometimes, the universe tests your willingness to wait, to prepare internally before taking external steps. This is not a delay, it is a deepening. The signs are messages meant to awaken you, to call forth your awareness and readiness before the change becomes tangible. By honoring these moments, by pausing to reflect and listen, you develop the inner alignment necessary for the transformation that is to come. Ignoring them, rushing past them, or dismissing them as coincidence is to close the door on your own potential. Ultimately, the first step in changing your future is noticing the messages that are already present. It is in the small, almost imperceptible details of life that the universe speaks most clearly. It is in these moments of heightened awareness, when you stop, breathe, and open yourself to possibility, that you begin to recognize the hand of fate guiding you forward. Life is ready to change when you are ready to receive it. The signs are everywhere, waiting patiently for your attention, for your acknowledgement, for your courage to act upon them. To see them, to embrace them, is to step into the next chapter of your life with clarity, purpose, and a heart wide open to what is possible. And when you finally do, you will realize that you were never truly waiting for the world to change. You were waiting for yourself to be ready. Change cannot take root while the past clings to you like a shadow. We often carry the weight of yesterday as if it were meant to define today or dictate tomorrow. Regrets, mistakes, disappointments, and old grievances, these are not merely memories, they are patterns, chains that quietly shape our choices, our fears, and our sense of what is possible. The first and most essential step toward a transformed future is learning to let go. To release what no longer serves you is not an act of weakness. It is the act of a soul in motion, a consciousness recognizing that growth is impossible while anchored in old wounds. Think about the moments when your past has held you captive. Perhaps it was a failure you could not forgive yourself for, a relationship that left scars too deep to forget, or a habit you repeated despite knowing it caused harm. All of these are markers, signposts, reminders of lessons learned, but if clung to, they become obstacles. The past has its place, but it is not meant to occupy the space where your future will emerge. To embrace change, you must first turn toward yourself with honesty and courage, acknowledging the parts of your history that you have carried, consciously or unconsciously, and then make a choice to release them. This is not about forgetting, it is about transcending. The process of letting go requires a deep confrontation with your own inner life. You cannot truly release what you do not see. Many spend decades avoiding the truths of their own experiences, burying them beneath distractions, obligations, or endless rationalization. Yet the unresolved past continues to whisper, subtly influencing your decisions, your fears, and even your joys. To prepare your future for change, you must sit with these echoes of yesterday, feel the pain, the regret, the guilt, and then allow them to dissolve in the acknowledgement that they no longer have power over the person you are becoming. This is a process of alchemy, turning old suffering into wisdom, transforming wounds into insight. Letting go also demands that you forgive not only others but yourself. The human mind often punishes itself more harshly than it ever punishes the world. We replay mistakes endlessly, imagine what we could have done differently, and allow shame to define our identity. But true freedom comes when you understand that imperfection is not a flaw, it is the condition of being human. Every misstep, every failure, every wrong turn has been a teacher, not a sentence. When you forgive yourself, you release the chains of expectation and judgment, and the mind becomes fertile ground for new possibilities. Your past remains as a memory, a teacher, a guide, but it no longer dictates the terms of your existence. Similarly, forgiving others is essential, not because it excuses their actions, but because carrying resentment and anger binds you to experiences that are already gone. Holding on to bitterness is like drinking poison while expecting the world to change. Every grudge, every unresolved conflict keeps your energy focused backward, preventing it from flowing into the creation of your future. The act of letting go is therefore both radical and gentle. It is radical because it requires a confrontation with all that you have clung to. It is gentle because it is an act of self-compassion, a recognition that you are worthy of liberation, and of a future unburdened by chains that were never meant to define you. There is also a natural rhythm to this process. Often the mind resists letting go because it fears loss. We fear that releasing the past means abandoning a part of ourselves or losing what gave us identity, even if it was painful. Yet, the paradox is that it is only through release that true continuity is possible. By allowing the past to take its rightful place as history rather than prophecy, you create space for growth. The future cannot unfold in a container already full. Change demands emptiness, not a void of meaning, but a space rich with potential, ready to receive what is to come. The moment of release is rarely dramatic. It is often quiet, almost imperceptible. You may notice a shift in your perception, a sudden lightness, or a new clarity in your thinking. You may feel less reactive, more grounded, and more willing to engage with the present without the weight of old stories. This is the signal that your inner world is aligning with the possibilities of your outer world. When you embrace this state, you begin to act differently, to choose differently, and to see opportunities where before there were only limitations. The past remains a part of you, but it no longer dictates your trajectory. Embracing the future also requires patience and trust. Letting go does not erase the lessons you have learned, nor does it instantly solve all difficulties. Change is gradual, often imperceptible day by day, but by consistently releasing what no longer serves you, old habits, outdated beliefs, unresolved emotional attachments, you create the conditions necessary for transformation. The universe responds not to wishes alone, but to readiness. And readiness comes not from external circumstances, but from internal clarity. The future is prepared to reveal itself when the inner landscape is fertile, free of clutter, and open to possibility. In truth, your future has always been waiting for you. It has been waiting not for external change, but for your willingness to release what binds you, for your courage to confront and forgive, and for your decision to step forward unencumbered. Every moment spent clinging to yesterday is a moment spent delaying your own evolution. But the moment you let go, the moment you fully release, the flow of life meets you with a force that is unmistakable, unmistakably aligned with the destiny that is yours to embrace. And in that release, in that quiet surrender to the wisdom of your own growth, you will find that the future you were waiting for was never a distant place. It was waiting within you all along. Your inner voice has always spoken to you, though you may not have always recognized it. It is subtle, often drowned out by the noise of the world, by the constant chatter of other people's opinions, by the weight of expectation and obligation. Yet, when your future is ready to change, this voice becomes impossible to ignore. It is the voice of your deepest self, the echo of your soul's wisdom, the part of you that knows what is true even when your mind struggles to understand. And when you begin to trust it, when you choose to listen above all else, it becomes the compass that guides you to a life aligned with your highest potential. The challenge is that your inner voice rarely speaks in absolute certainty. It rarely shouts instructions or guarantees. Instead, it communicates in whispers, in nudges, in feelings that pull you toward one choice over another. You might feel a subtle excitement when contemplating a new direction, or a quiet unease when considering a path that does not serve you. These are not accidents, they are your consciousness signaling what is right for you. The mind often wants proof, wants clarity, wants steps mapped out in advance, but the soul asks only for attention and trust. It is in the space between uncertainty and surrender that your future begins to reveal itself. Trusting your inner voice requires courage, because it may lead you in directions that defy logic, that challenge your comfort zone, or that go against the expectations of those around you. You may be called to make decisions that seem reckless to the outside world, but are, in fact, perfectly aligned with your growth. Many people avoid listening to this voice because it is inconvenient, because it demands change, because it requires a leap of faith. Yet the future is never shaped by comfort, it is shaped by courage, by the willingness to follow the subtle guidance that whispers, "This is your path. Take it even if you cannot yet see where it leads." There is a certain elegance in this process, a quiet poetry. The inner voice does not compete with the mind, it complements it. The mind organizes, plans, and reasons, but the inner voice knows what is beyond reason. It perceives possibilities that the intellect cannot calculate, connection that the mind cannot trace, and solutions that logic cannot derive. When you learn to trust this voice, You begin to integrate intuition with intellect, instinct with understanding. Life becomes less about forcing outcomes and more about flowing with the currents of your own consciousness, navigating by an internal compass that is both precise and profoundly wise. Listening to your inner voice also demands patience and observation. Its guidance is rarely immediate. It often arrives in the form of questions, of subtle inclinations, of gentle prompts rather than direct commands. You might feel drawn to certain people, ideas, or actions repeatedly, or notice that some opportunities resonate with an intensity that cannot be ignored. These are all forms of communication, invitations from your deeper self to move toward alignment. The universe conspires through your inner voice, providing hints and nudges that, when followed, open doors to your next phase of growth. But trusting your inner voice is not passive. It is an active, conscious practice. It requires you to cultivate silence, to create space away from distraction, to listen without judgment or interference. Meditation, reflection, or simply quiet moments of awareness allow you to hear the patterns that otherwise remain hidden. In these spaces, the inner voice grows clearer, stronger, more confident. It begins to cut through the clutter, guiding you with a precision that is unmistakable. And when you finally act on its guidance, even in small ways, you reinforce a cycle of trust, deepening your alignment with what your future requires. It is important to recognize that this voice is not always comfortable. Often, it calls you to confront fears, to release attachments, to step into uncertainty. It may challenge the beliefs you have long held or ask you to embrace change you have resisted. And yet, the very discomfort it brings is proof of its authenticity. The inner voice never seeks to preserve the past or conform to expectation. It seeks your evolution. To ignore it is to cling to limitation, to deny the wisdom that already resides within you. To follow it is to step boldly into your own potential, even if the path is not fully illuminated. The power of listening is compounded when you act. The inner voice provides guidance, but it does not replace choice. You must respond, you must engage, you must act in alignment with what you know to be true. Each step taken in trust creates momentum. Each decision in harmony with your inner wisdom reinforces the connection. And each leap of faith opens new possibilities that could not have been foreseen. Life begins to shift in response to your attentiveness, and the future that once seemed distant becomes tangible. Ultimately, trusting your inner voice is an act of faith in yourself. It is a recognition that you are more than your fears, more than your doubts, more than the limitations imposed by circumstance or the opinions of others. The guidance you receive is not external, it is a reflection of your own readiness, your own capacity for growth, your own alignment with the unfolding of life. When you choose to listen, you step into a partnership with your own consciousness, allowing your future to emerge not as a product of chance, but as a natural consequence of your awareness and intention. And when you finally embrace this voice, when you act in accordance with its guidance, you will realize that the future you sought was never beyond your reach. It was waiting for you to trust yourself enough to step toward it. Change is rarely a sudden explosion, even when it feels urgent. The universe does not demand that you leap instantly into a new life. It unfolds in layers, in rhythms, in subtle movements that gather strength over time. Often, it is the small, consistent actions, the choices that seem insignificant at the moment, that create the foundation for monumental transformation. When your future is ready to shift, it is not the grand gestures alone that carry you forward, but the quiet discipline of doing what is necessary, day after day, step by step. These small acts are like seeds planted in fertile soil. Each one seems to shift not because of force, but because of persistent alignment. Small actions carry power because they shape habits, and habits shape destiny. Each decision, each choice, is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. When you act consistently in alignment with your values, with your inner guidance, you begin to create momentum. It is a quiet, almost invisible force, but one that compounds over time. A single step might seem inconsequential, but repeated daily, it becomes the architecture of change. You are not waiting for external validation or dramatic opportunity. You are building the bridge to your future, one plank at a time. There is also a psychological aspect to this. When you engage in small, consistent actions, your mind begins to trust your intentions. Your inner voice gains credibility because it sees that you are willing to act in alignment with its guidance. You begin to feel capable, even when challenges arise, because the foundation of your actions reinforces your sense of agency. You are no longer dependent on motivation alone, which is fleeting, but on habit, on discipline, on the quiet, unstoppable force of persistence. And it is this force that the universe meets with opportunity, allowing the door of possibility to open to feel, and the spirit that is trained to act intentionally become instruments of transformation, building not just progress, but character, resilience, and inner authority. Consistency also teaches the lesson of trust. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust in life. By taking small steps each day, you demonstrate to your consciousness that you are reliable, that you are committed, and that you are ready to meet the changes the universe is offering. The future is not something that suddenly drops into your lap. It is something you prepare for, cultivate, and align with through deliberate action. And when that preparation is done, the universe meets your effort with opportunity, timing, and synchronicity in a way that feels inevitable. Ultimately, it is through these small, consistent actions that transformation becomes real. They are the unseen architecture of the life you are meant to live, the quiet declaration that you are ready, the persistent proof that your readiness is not abstract but tangible. And when the moment arrives, when your future is ready to change in a way you can no longer ignore, you will find that the path has already been laid. You will see that it is not luck or chance that has brought you here, but the deliberate, steady, intentional steps you have taken all along. And in this realization, you will understand that the smallest actions, repeated faithfully, are often the most powerful catalysts for change. Fear is a universal companion, one that everyone carries in some form, yet few understand its true purpose. It is not a sign of weakness, nor is it an enemy to be vanquished. Fear is a compass, a signal, a message from the deepest parts of your consciousness, pointing precisely to where growth is waiting. When your future is ready to change, fear often rises not to stop you, but to show you the edges of your comfort zone, the boundaries that must be expanded if you are to step into a greater life. It is in the presence of this fear, not in its absence, that the opportunity for transformation exists. Many avoid fear, seeking safety, certainty, and predictability. We are conditioned to treat fear as a warning, a barrier, or a danger, but the truth is far more subtle and profound. Fear arises when the self encounters the unknown, when it is asked to move beyond familiar patterns, and when it senses the potential for real evolution. It is not a signal to retreat. It is an invitation to explore the territories within yourself that you have long neglected. The moment you recognize fear as a guide rather than an obstacle, the entire landscape of possibility shifts. What once paralyzed you now becomes a threshold to cross, a doorway to a new reality. Fear often manifests in many forms: hesitation, doubt, anxiety, self-sabotage. Each of these is a whisper from the psyche, pointing to the precise areas that are ripe for change. You may notice fear as a tension in your chest, a racing thought, a voice telling you that you are not ready, or that failure is inevitable. These are not random experiences. They are markers that indicate where your future is seeking expansion. To ignore them is to deny the guidance that your own inner world is providing. To confront them, to move through them, is to align yourself with the transformation that is waiting for you. The key is to understand that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the presence of fear. It is the decision to step forward even when the path is uncertain, even when the mind screams with doubt, and even when every instinct suggests retreat. True growth demands this courage because transformation always asks you to go beyond what is comfortable and familiar. It asks you to confront not only external challenges but also the internal narratives that have long held you captive. Fear is the signal, courage is the response, and together they mark the path toward your future. Another important aspect of fear is that it often reflects your deepest potential. What frightens you the most is often where your soul is calling you to go. If you fear speaking your truth, perhaps your future requires that you embrace authenticity. If you fear failure, perhaps your future requires that you attempt something meaningful, something that stretches your abilities. Fear, in this sense, is a mirror revealing what is essential for your growth and what you must face to step fully into your own life. The very areas that feel most uncomfortable are often the areas that hold the most reward. It is also important to recognize the role of mindfulness in engaging with fear. When fear arises, do not fight it or suppress it. Observe it. Name it. Understand it. Ask yourself, what is this fear pointing toward? What is it trying to teach me? Fear becomes a tool for self-discovery, a bridge between your current state and the future that awaits. When you approach fear with curiosity rather than resistance, you transform it from an obstacle into a guide. You stop being a passive participant in your own life and become an active co-creator of your destiny. This process requires patience. Fear does not vanish instantly, and the mind will continue to resist the unknown. But with repeated engagement, with small acts of courage taken consistently, fear loses its power to immobilize. It becomes a companion on the journey, rather than a tyrant dictating your choices. Each time you move forward despite fear, you reinforce a new identity, a person capable of meeting life on its terms, willing to explore, willing to grow, willing to embrace the unknown. These small acts of courage accumulate, building momentum and create a pattern of strength that carries you into new realms of possibility. It is also essential to remember that fear is often tied to identity. The self fears change because change threatens the familiar definition of who we are. To step into a new future is to risk leaving behind aspects of the self we have long clung to. Yet this shedding is necessary. To grow, to evolve, to transform, you must allow yourself to be uncomfortable, to be stretched, to encounter uncertainty. Every step taken despite fear reshapes your identity, aligning it with the life that is waiting for you rather than the life you had always clung to out of familiarity. Fear, ultimately, is the signpost of transformation. It tells you exactly where your courage is required, where your attention must go, and where the next phase of your evolution lies. The moment you embrace fear as a teacher rather than a tormentor, you reclaim the power to move beyond limitation. You begin to understand that what is frightening is often what is most essential, what is most rewarding, and what is most aligned with your true purpose. To face fear, to engage with it intentionally, and to act in spite of it is to step into the fullness of your potential and to invite your future to meet you on your own terms. And in this embrace of fear, you will discover that courage was never absent, that the future you longed for was never out of reach, and that every step forward, despite trembling, was exactly what was required for your life to change. True transformation is not just about external change. It is about alignment. It is about the harmony of your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. The universe responds to coherence, to the integration of your inner world with your outer life. When your thoughts are scattered, your emotions conflicted, and your actions inconsistent, the future cannot fully take shape. Change requires that the energy within you flows in one direction, that your mind, heart, and deeds are not at odds, but in agreement, each reinforcing the other in a rhythm that propels you forward. Consider how often we act in ways that contradict our inner knowing. We may have clarity in thought, understanding what we desire and what we must do, but our emotions resist. Doubt, fear, guilt, and resentment cloud the heart, creating friction between intention and feeling. Or perhaps our emotions are aligned, stirring passion and urgency, yet the mind finds endless reasons why action is impossible, impractical, or unsafe. At other times, both thought and feeling may be in alignment, yet our actions fail to follow. This fragmentation is what keeps people trapped in cycles of stagnation, wondering why change seems just beyond reach. Alignment is the antidote. It is the bridge that connects inner knowing with outer reality. To achieve this alignment, you must first cultivate awareness. Begin by observing your thoughts without judgment, noticing where they encourage growth and where they impose limitation. Recognize your emotions for what they are, signals, not commands. Fear may be caution, but it can also be a signpost pointing to necessary growth. Joy, curiosity, and excitement indicate the path of resonance, the areas where your potential is ready to expand. By observing these inner currents, you begin to understand the patterns that either propel or obstruct your progress. Awareness is the first step toward integration because it allows you to see where contradictions exist and where energy is being dissipated rather than focused. Next, practice conscious emotional regulation. Alignment does not require denying feelings, but it does require mastery over them. Emotions that are unacknowledged or uncontrolled create turbulence, and turbulence blocks the manifestation of your future. By learning to feel fully and intentionally, to honor your emotions without being ruled by them, you create clarity within. This clarity acts as a lens through which your thoughts are refined, helping you make decisions that are not reactive but reflective, not impulsive but intentional. Emotion and thought, when harmonized, form the architecture of purposeful action. Action itself must also be intentional. Alignment is incomplete without movement, because thoughts and feelings without action are like seeds that are never planted. Every action you take must reflect your internal coherence. When your behavior mirrors your inner understanding, when it embodies your emotional truth and mental clarity, you generate a force that is magnetic. Opportunities align, synchronicities emerge, and the universe meets you with support. Misaligned action, on the other hand, scatters energy, invites resistance, and delays the arrival of change. The consistency of thought, emotion, and action is what signals to life itself that you are ready to receive transformation. One of the most profound aspects of this alignment is that it creates integrity within. Integrity is not merely moral, it is energetic. When you act in harmony with your inner truth, your presence resonates with authenticity. People and circumstances respond to this resonance, sometimes in ways you could never predict. Doors open not because of effort alone, but because alignment generates an invisible force, a momentum that draws the right situations, the right people, and the right opportunities into your orbit. Alignment, then, is not only a personal principle but a cosmic one. It is how the universe recognizes readiness and permits change to flow. Alignment also requires courage and honesty. You must confront areas where you are deceiving yourself, where thought, emotions, or actions are inconsistent with your highest potential. This may mean acknowledging fears you have avoided, desires you have suppressed, or choices you have rationalized out of comfort or habit. There is a natural resistance to such honesty because it demands vulnerability. Yet it is precisely this courage that allows alignment to take hold. The more you confront the discrepancies within yourself, the more capable you become of integrating them, and the more seamless the flow between your inner and outer worlds becomes. Patience is essential in this process. Alignment is not instantaneous. It evolves over time with repeated observation, reflection, and conscious choice. You will falter, you will act inconsistently, and you will face internal resistance. But each moment of awareness, each choice to return to alignment, strengthens the coherence of your being. Over time, the energy that was once scattered begins to converge, creating a momentum that cannot be denied. The future, once uncertain and distant, becomes tangible, unfolding naturally in response to the alignment you have cultivated. Ultimately, the power of alignment is that it creates readiness. The universe does not force change upon you. It responds to your capacity to receive it. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in harmony, you are ready. You are no longer at odds with yourself. You are no longer sending mixed signals into the world. You have created the conditions for transformation, and the moment of change is a reflection of the readiness you have nurtured within. When you achieve this alignment, you realize that the future you were waiting for was never separate from you. It was not something to chase or manipulate. It was waiting for your readiness, for the coherence of your inner life, to match the life you desire externally. And in that harmony, in that integration of thought, feeling, and action, you find the power to step into your future with confidence, clarity, and purpose. And when you act from this place of alignment, you will find that life itself begins to move in your favor effortlessly and inevitably, because you have become the living expression of the change you seek. Surrender is one of the most misunderstood concepts in life. It is often associated with weakness, defeat, or giving up. Yet true surrender is neither of these things. It is not the relinquishing of effort, nor the abandonment of intention. Surrender is the conscious release of control over outcomes, the acknowledgement that, while you can shape your path, you cannot dictate every twist, turn, or circumstance. It is the moment when you stop resisting the natural flow of life and allow transformation to occur, not because you are passive, but because you have aligned yourself with the forces that govern change. Many struggle with surrender because they equate it with letting go of ambition or desire. They fear that to release control is to invite chaos, to abandon responsibility, or to invite disappointment. But the paradox of surrender is that it is the ultimate act of power. When you release the need to force, manipulate, or control, you create a space for life to move freely through you. You stop pushing against the current, and begin to swim with it, allowing the opportunity, synchronicities, and insights that were previously obscured to emerge naturally. Surrender does not diminish your role in shaping your future. It elevates it by aligning your energy with what is possible rather than what is imagined. Surrender is also an act of trust. It requires a deep belief that the universe, or life itself, responds intelligently, that it has timing, patterns, and wisdom beyond your immediate comprehension. To surrender is to trust that your efforts, your intentions, and your readiness are met by the world in ways that may not be immediately visible. Often the results of surrender are subtle at first. They appear as small shifts, fleeting opportunities, or quiet confirmations that you are on the right path. These moments are the universe speaking, showing that by letting go of rigid control, you have aligned yourself with the flow of change. It is natural to feel resistance to surrender. The mind, conditioned by fear and habit, constantly seeks certainty. It wants to plan, predict, and secure outcomes before taking action. Yet life is never entirely predictable, and the illusion of control often creates tension, frustration, and stagnation. By surrendering, you acknowledge that you do not need to force every step that the unfolding of events is larger than any one plan, and that your role is to participate fully, not to dominate. In this participation, there is a freedom that cannot be found in control, a liberation that comes from aligning with the natural order rather than battling against it. Surrender also involves letting go of attachment to specific outcomes. Often, the struggle to control life arises from clinging to expectations of what should happen, how people should respond, or what the path must look like. These attachments create tension, disappointment, and resistance. When you release them, you open yourself to possibilities that are often greater than what you could have imagined. The future does not unfold according to rigid plans, but according to readiness, alignment, and openness. The act of surrender is the conscious choice to allow life to bring you what is truly aligned with your growth and potential, rather than what your mind insists upon. Another element of surrender is humility. It is the recognition that you are part of a larger system, a web of forces and circumstances, many of which are beyond comprehension. To surrender is to acknowledge that life's intelligence is vast, and that your best efforts, when aligned, are sufficient to meet the unfolding of your destiny. This humility is not self-diminishing, it is empowering. It allows you to release unnecessary struggle, conserve energy, and direct your focus toward what you can influence, your alignment, your attention, and your actions. The rest is allowed to flow, trusting that the currents of change will meet you when the time is right. Surrender also deepens your capacity for presence. When you stop forcing outcomes and release attachment to control, you become more attuned to the moment, more aware of the subtle signals, opportunities, and guidance that life offers. You notice patterns you could not see before, opportunities you might have overlooked, and connections that arise organically. Presence is the companion of surrender, and in it, clarity emerges. You no longer chase the future desperately or cling to the past in fear. You move through life with awareness, receptivity, and intentionality, allowing your steps to be guided by readiness rather than anxiety. Perhaps the most profound aspect of surrender is that it is not a one-time act, but a continued practice. Every day, every decision, every challenge presents an opportunity to release control and trust the flow of life. It requires vigilance, patience, and courage, because the mind instinctively wants to resist. But each moment of conscious surrender reinforces a pattern of alignment, creating a life that flows rather than resists, a future that unfolds naturally rather than being forced. This practice is the essence of readiness, the realization that transformation does not come through struggle alone, but through the marriage of effort, awareness, and release. Ultimately, surrender is the final step in preparing your future to change. It is the culmination of awareness, alignment, courage, and trust. It allows the universe to meet you with clarity and opportunity because you have demonstrated that you are ready, that your energy is aligned, and that you are willing to engage fully without insisting upon control. In surrender, you become a vessel for transformation, capable of receiving and navigating the changes that life presents with grace, courage, and wisdom. And when you finally surrender, when you release the need to force, control, or resist, you will find that the door to your transformed future has always been open. It was waiting for the moment you were ready to let go.